Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Another edition Fantasy Executive Shows. Your boy Corey Parson, the Fantasy Executive, pushing right up against the start of the NFL season right now. So, do got a special treat today, but I do want to let everybody know. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. You know what I'm saying? To everybody subscribed so far, thank you very much. I appreciate your support as we relaunch the Fantasy Executive Network on YouTube. And those of you that want to get involved in some gaming, link in the description. I'm running a Survivor contest over there at Splash Sports. Also going to be some weekly pick'em, not sports betting, not gambling, just office pool type stuff. So no matter what state you live in, you'll be able to participate. So check out the link in the description. And without further ado, I bring in a guy who has really become one of the leaders in the fantasy industry, and he really doesn't need any introduction. You've probably played in his tournament. It's my main man, Scott Fish. Scott, what's going on, my guy?
What's going on, Corey? What's going on? Yeah, it's a fun time of year, that's for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. So good seeing you out there in Canton, Ohio at the Kings Classic a couple of weeks ago. You know what I'm saying? Bob Lung does a great job with that. But how is everything going? Before we get into some of the picks and stuff like that, how's everything going with Fantasy's Cares and the Scott Fish Bowl? Really, the brand of Scott Fish Bowl, what Scott Fish Bowl has become, probably the most popular league in fantasy sports right now.
It's gotten a little insane with the whole fishbowl thing. I didn't even like the name for the first half decade it was out there. But let me tell you, it was a great branding move, I suppose.
For real,
having my name in there. But it's going great. Fantasy Cares is it's an accredited 501c3 charity, so any donations to it are tax deductible. We just want to work with different places and bring some charitable elements to those leagues out there. You know, do some good with this hobby of ours. And as far as the fishbowl, I mean, we got 3,300 plus teams this year. Just about every analyst in the industry. Lots of actors, celebrities, former athletes, current athletes. It's a crazy thing it's become.
No doubt about it. You know what I'm saying? Just seeing, how you've done it and get it together. Barely been watching it from the start. I remember the first Scotch Fish Bowl. One day it's going to be a trivia question. Who won this first Scotch Fish Bowl? It's Mike Clay of ESPN. That's the answer if you want to know. I've never really had that much luck in the Scotch Fish Bowl, right? But my boy, the king, Scott Engel, gave it a run one year, and I always like it when my boy Scott Engel does well.
Yeah. I love when seeing guys I've known for many years, like you, Scott, etc., making a run at those things. It's fun to watch.
So speaking of leagues, recently we took part in the flex drafts run by my guy Jake Seeley and the crew over there. Shout out to Jake Seeley. Been friends with Jake for years as well. Does a great job at The Athletic. As a matter of fact, I just got off a podcast with Nando, and he told me to tell Scott Fish what's up.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I'm gonna see Nando we're doing a show together tomorrow night. So it's been a while. It's good that you did a show with him. I love Nando. I think everyone loves Nando.
I mean, probably the nicest guy in the industry, hands down. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Nando, he's always a guy with a warm smile, a tip, some advice. If Nando DeFino from The Athletic can help you, he definitely will. So shout out to Nando. So we're in this in the best ball version of the flex. You know what I'm saying? So this is, thank God, because it's setting these lineups. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of them. It's a lot of them fish. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But pretty solid crew. You know what I'm saying? Me, you, Steve Gallo, Matt Schaff, Ray Flowers, Vlad, Roto Gut. Nando's actually in the league. Pat Fitzmaurice, who was just brought to my attention the other day. I need to give him a shout, him a holler, shoot him an email. Adam Azer, the legendary Bob Harris, and of course Marcus Gray as well, and Matthew Berry.
I was going to say, you're leaving Berry for last?
Sorry, I left Matthew Berry out. Well, he was drafting 12th, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so there you go right there. With that being said, your first pick in this draft, and you were coming out, if I'm not mistaken, you were coming out the 9 hole, right?
Right.
Yeah, your first pick in this draft was Austin Eckler. Yeah. And I have been mentioning to people recently, I'm starting to see Austin Eckler fall in the first round. At one point, he was at that 5-6 range. Now you see Eckler 9, 10, sometimes even 11. Why does it seem as if the fantasy community is all of a sudden, I don't want to say turning their back on Austin Eckler, but He's been very good to fantasy managers for the past couple of years. Why all of a sudden late in the draft season, people getting hesitant on Austin Eckler?
Yeah, I'm honestly not sure why it's happening. When I got him as RB3 at pick 9, I thought that was an absolute steal. My first instinct was a lot of new drafters are coming into the circles, and this zero running back theory has been pushed for the last couple of years, and people loved it last year. So maybe they've entered the fray and they're pushing running backs down a little bit. But yeah, I feel like he's going mid to late first most of the time. That I'm just happy with him at 9. He's my RB3. So
Yeah, no doubt. Austin Eckler can get it done, and obviously you see what he's able to do in the passing game and stuff like that. You came back around. Me and you were kind of battling on the turn in this draft right here. You sniped me a couple times. I probably got you a couple times.
Definitely did.
Your second pick, you took Garrett Wilson. I took Devontae Adams right before that.
Yes.
I was just telling Nando, man, Devontae Adams in the second round, that doesn't seem fair. You know what I'm saying? And we're seeing a lot of that because people, the reason why is the fantasy community doesn't like Jimmy Garoppolo.
Right.
But Adams had 180 Derek Carr targets last year. It caught 100 passes. I think 180 Jimmy G targets could lead to 125 catches.
Yeah, and Darren Waller's not there soaking up targets this year either.
No doubt.
So I love that. I usually see Devontae Adams go on that back corner, but yeah, you got him a couple picks later. That was a really good deal. I knew Amon-Ra was going to go to Matthew Berry on the corner.
Yeah, no, Amon-Ra is a first rounder now. You know what I'm saying? He's a consistent
absolutely.
First rounder.
Yep.
I like, that happened about a couple of weeks ago, and now you see him in that first round everywhere. Your pick was New York Jet wide receiver Garrett Wilson as your WR1. If Adams wasn't there, I probably would have went with Wilson. Talk about what you see for Wilson this upcoming season. Obviously, fantastic rookie year, wins the Offensive Rookie of the Year award. And I think when Aaron Rodgers is talking you up, I think you could be in for a good season.
Yeah, you got so many things converging there. You got coming off a good rookie year. This year, he's got a whole off season. The entire offense feels like it's getting upgrades that, a rising tide raises all boats. So you already got to put his numbers higher than last year, which was already great. Then you got a Hall of Fame quarterback. I know he wasn't, as good last year, but I love Aaron Rodgers with the chip on his shoulder. It feels like he's got a little chip from that Green Bay issue. So I just everything with Garrett Wilson this year, the preseason, how he's been playing, having a full offense, obviously isn't with that offense, and the offense just being better in general. Man, I love everything about Wilson this year. I've taken him on that back corner several times.
And do you have a favorite area that you like to draft from this year? Like, is it the middle, is it the beginning, or is it that back corner?
So I am mostly drafting from the back corner in most of my drafts, and I've been very happy with what's turned out from that area. I would say, back corner, like that 7 to 10 range is kind of where I want to be. I keep missing out on some of those early studs, but I'm fine with it because it feels like there's a lot of decent value on that back corner.
Yeah, and listen, I think you can kind of make it do what it do from anywhere on it on the board, but I do see some good value in that back corner as well. Your RB2 in this league is Jahmyr Gibbs, Detroit Lions rookie running back. This seems to be about where he is going. Right. They said, you know what, no more DeAndre Swift. So they go get a DeAndre Swift type player. Yeah. Hopefully this time it's successful.
Yeah. My big worry is David Montgomery taking a lot more goal line looks like than I hope he will. I need Jahmyr Gibbs to do it for the amount of Jahmyr Gibbs I've drafted. Jamal Williams obviously left Detroit, and Jamal Williams had 38 goal-to-goal carries last year, which is nearly double anyone else in the NFL. So I figure if Jahmyr Gibbs can even siphon off a quarter of those, that's a decent amount because I feel like he's special enough he can score from anywhere. I can't remember if this league drafted right after the Zeke news or right before it for Ramondre Stevenson. Otherwise, he'd be the other running back I would have considered in that area.
Yeah, I like Stevenson too. I think he's a good player, but I agree that Ezekiel Elliott, you never know. Ezekiel Elliott could be this year's Williams, Jamal Williams, and lead the NFL in touchdowns. I wouldn't doubt that if that was the case, because one thing Zeke can do, he can protect the passer, and he can still get you that good short yardage work.
The Patriots just did it 2 years ago with Damian Harris, 15 touchdowns, and 6-7 years ago with LeGarrette Blount with his 18 or whatever. They've shown they don't mind having a goal line back in there.
And that is something that you don't really see. The classic goal line back, but New England has done it. And especially in like you get into the bye weeks, you may think, oh man, I got to put Ezekiel Elliott in my lineup. And then you could end up with 2 touchdowns. You know what I'm saying? So it's good to have. Trust me, I had LeGarrette Blount through some of those years, and it makes it it makes it much more easier to deal with. Interesting pick. Your QB1 is Anthony Richardson going into the season. Do you have Anthony Richardson ranked in your top 12?
I do. I have him as QB9. Once I believe there's a pretty clear-cut top 8. I don't know if you're with me on that, but I feel like that Allen, Mahomes, Hurts, Jackson, Herbert, Burrow, Fields, Trevor Lawrence at the end there is my top 8. Then there's a drop-off. And then I feel you have Anthony Richardson and a bunch of safe-ish guys, like your Cousins, your Prescotts, your Genos, your Tuas, your maybe Daniel Jones there, I guess. But a lot of guys that most would consider pretty safe. And I think that taking Richardson at QB9 instead of behind those safe options is just me playing on a player that I think could break the scoring if he hits. If he hits and gets all those rushing yards, those rushing touchdowns, if Jonathan Taylor leaves and he gets a bunch of rushing touchdowns because of that, that could be huge. So when I do take Richardson as my QB9, my immediate plan is to back him up with one of those safe guys within a couple rounds if I can, just to make sure.
Yep, and I believe you did come back and do that. If I'm not mistaken, you came back with Kirk Cousins and Sam Howell. I want to ask you about Sam Howell a little bit later on because I'm a big Sam Howell supporter as well this year. But you mentioned this grouping of quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Cousins, Prescott, Tua, and Geno.
Yeah.
Geno is my guy out of that bunch.
Yes.
Now, I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan, but I'm very angry with Dak Prescott. So I'm punishing him by not putting him on my fantasy teams this year, so he won't get to celebrate in my winnings. But and when you look at that bunch right there, how would you rank that? Cousins, Prescott, Tua, and Geno.
I would have ranked Geno first before the Jackson Smith injury, just because I feel like he's got the best weapons of the bunch, like throughout. You know, but second best weapons, honestly, for me is probably Tua. I feel like there's a little bit more risk there, but I'll shout out my guy Shane Helm, who made a comment that he's like, Tua's been practicing and training to try to avoid concussions all offseason. Maybe he's more aware of it than other quarterbacks, so maybe he's the least likely to get another concussion just because he's so focused on avoiding it. But I just look at what Tua did early in the season last year with Tyreek Hill and Waddle, and he had a couple of 400-yard games in there. And if he can come back with, I think I'm kind of an upside player at times. You can kind of see that with an Anthony Richardson pick. So it'd probably be Tua, Geno, then Cousins, then Dak in that order.
Yeah, and you know what? You mentioned I heard that Tua was like doing some jujitsu to kind of learn how to take a hit and fall without banging his head. It's going to be interesting to see how that works out, because if Michael Parsons get on your ass, it's going hard to get in that position quickly. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. A guy like Michael Parsons has control of your body at that point.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't really make a difference what form of martial arts you're practicing. George Pickens on this team right here.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, there's optimism not only around Pickens, but it's optimism around Pickett. And I see where the win total is 9.5 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I'm like, wow, is people really think that this Pittsburgh team is going to be able to compete this year? And if they can, it's got a big reason it's going to be George Pickens.
Well, I mean, how many times? I think part of that is Mike Tomlin has had less than 8 wins exactly 0 times in his NFL career.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so you can almost just pencil in 8 and then add a game and a half on just hoping for upside there or something.
For real.
Maybe the public Pittsburgh batters, just the public perception will raise that up. There's a lot of optimism, especially I think a big part of it is watching these preseason games. Kenny Pickett looks like he's made a bit of a leap. Yeah. At least to my eyes.
You could tell it down the stretch last year. In the second half of the year last year, he looked much more comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I see both Pittsburgh receivers went in this round, which feels pretty common. It feels like they go within a round or two of each other nowadays.
Yeah, Pickett definitely was a guy who was one of the biggest ADP risers going into this draft season. Zach Charbonnet is a player I like. You're on the Seahawks offense. I'm on the Seahawks offense. I feel good about that.
Yeah, yeah. I know Ken Walker had what 70% of the carries for them last year, but he does tend to get dinged up. I think Charbonnet is the better natural pass catcher. I don't think anyone's going to argue that one too much. But yeah, I just wanted a piece of that offense, and that felt like the only one that I was going to get, and I needed a running back.
Young tight end Chick Akanu is what I believe his name is, or what we refer to him as. But Mr. Akanu, he is a guy that I've
Yeah,
seen a lot of people in the fantasy community talk
yeah,
about as a sleeper tight end this year. I don't have any shares. My tight end strategy this year was to try to get one of the top guys,
right.
not even fool around. So I got a lot of Kittle, I got a lot of Mark Andrews. You know what I'm saying? You have Hawkinson on this team. I
Yep.
have Hawkinson on a few teams. What do you see with Akanu? Is he the guy that you think maybe – hey, in some deeper leagues, you can roll him out in a flex spot?
Man, in deeper leagues, I feel like after the top 6 or 7 tight ends, it's really a crapshoot. It's like there's about a 12 or 13 man list that you got to figure out weekly what's the best matchup potentially. But for Chig, yeah, just in the small sample size last year, he had some pretty elite, per snap, per touch numbers. So there was a lot of optimism there. I think DeAndre Hopkins coming spoils that a little. Then we had the Treylon Burks injury, which we thought would open things up for Okonkwo early in the season, which now it looks like Burks is looking fine out there. It looks like he's jumping and catching on that leg just fine. So I'm not as hyped as I was a couple weeks ago. We
Yeah.
drafted this before DeAndre Hopkins was signed. I'm not sure I make that pick now, but I do like it. Tight end 13, that's probably about where I have him ranked.
Before we get out of here, the Commanders. You
Yeah.
got Howell on this team. You got
Yeah.
McLaurin on this team.
Yep.
I think the Commanders are a playoff team this year.
I do
I
too.
like Antonio Gibson more than I like Brian Robinson. Curious your
too.
thoughts on those two running backs, and also your thoughts on Howell and the wide receiver crew for the Commanders.
Yeah, so I have several steps here. Sam Howell, I was a fan of coming out more than probably most. I felt he slipped in the draft, and I thought he was going to be a decent NFL quarterback. I know
Hey,
Ron
Scott,
Rivera.
he came into that year, his final year of college, and when the season started, he had the second shortest odds to win the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah. Wow. I did not realize that. I didn't remember that. That's insane. Yeah. So it's funny seeing Ron Rivera mention how if I knew he was this good, I would have played him more last
Oh
year.
my God, Ron
But
Rivera.
yeah, with Logan Thomas coming back and Cole, I'm blanking on his name. Turner?
Yes.
Cole, yes. The rookie tight end. Those two are going to be decent options. McLaurin is going to be great for him. The running backs, I'm with you. I have Gibson over Brian Robinson. I think Brian Robinson had just a couple 9 catches in 12 games last year or something like that. He's not going to do pass catching. McKissick's gone, so Gibson's going to get that pass catching work. We've seen him do it on the goal line. He had 10 plus touchdowns like twice. Gibson did, so he can do that, and he can do early down. I just prefer Gibson. I know he's going to be more of a joker in that offense and move around and do things, but for fantasy, I prefer him. But as for the wide receivers, I know this is a little hot takey, but I've been taking Jahan Dotson slightly over Terry McLaurin recently.
Oh, that's interesting. Go ahead and break that down.
Well, mostly I have them in a similar spot. I just feel that, and they're going pretty close to each other. I just feel he fits better with Sam Howell. We saw him get well over like 60% of the Sam Howell's yards in week 17 last year. The 1 week they play together, they look like they have a good connection. I think his skill set is really good for Howell. But I think the biggest thing is the recent toe injury to Terry McLaurin. I hate toe injuries in the NFL. Yeah. I hate when they linger. The only thing he can do for it is just stay completely off it. And these competitors, man, it seems like they never want to stay completely off of it. They just want to get out there. And I'm worried that it can linger in the season. And I would take the upside rookie that's coming up, who Matt Harmon's reception perception had his route running skills at an absolute elite level last year. So I'm just banking on. It feels like things are going right for Jahan Dotson.
No doubt about it. Scott Fish is my guy. You can follow him on Twitter at ScottFish24. Check out his work and that league at scottfishbowl.com.
Mm-hmm.
Scott Fish, you do good work. Fantasy Cares, Scott
man.
Fishbowl, you know what I'm saying? You are one of the real statements of the fantasy football industry, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me on. This is great.
No doubt. For my man Scott Fish, Corey Parson, the fantasy executive, we are out.